Most High God. You are the Most High. You are the Most High God. In a couple of videos back, we talked about spiritual warfare, and I thought that it's good to take it further. Now, looking at our prayer lives, how do we commune with God, especially when we're engaging God on the matters of spiritual warfare? We want Him to respond to us regarding certain issues. One of the things we learn about Psalms 138 verse 2 is that God has exalted His word above His name. In the heavens, He has exalted His word. In other words, when you go to heaven, the word of God is highly exalted, that God Himself is also obliged to follow His word. What does that mean to us? It means that every time you go before God, you should always carry the word of God. We look at Hebrews chapter 4 verse 12. It talks about the word of God being powerful. And because the word of God is powerful, one of the things that we realize is that every time we deploy it, there is a tendency to release power and effort. Look at these two examples. When you look at the story of Abraham, and he was standing in the gap on behalf of Lot and Sodom and Gomorrah. The angels were passing by in Genesis chapter 18, and they were about to go and destroy Sodom. But Abraham engages God in a very interesting manner. He talks to God about that thing, and he tells him, is it good for you, God, to destroy the righteous and the wicked? And in fact, God, who was in an agenda to go and destroy, stops to listen to this mortal man who has brought in an aspect about God's nature. Look at the book of Exodus chapter 32. Moses, who is also considered an intercessor in the Bible. When God was angry with the Israelites now because they had forsaken Him and He had redeemed them from Egypt, and people were worshipping idols, Moses was trying to soberize God. I use the word soberize. He asked God, how can it be that you want to kill people? The Egyptians and other people will say that you, God, took them out of Egypt to come and destroy them in the desert. Look at also the story of Job. When Satan is engaging God about the life of Job, it's basically prayer. We don't see him doing the things that we do in church, shouting, praying in tongues very vehemently. While it's not a bad thing, sometimes the Spirit will move you. But we see something that engaging God is like a friendship. Satan is saying, you know, you just bless Job because of A, B, C. You remove this, and then you will see that he will curse you to the face. And God is able to respond. What is prayer in this sense? You are able to entreat God to allow an action to happen on earth, either against you or for you. What do we learn from all this about our intercessory? One is that every time you go to the presence of God, you should always carry the word of God with you. For example, the promises of God. If you are feeling sick and you are going before God, when you cry tears but you don't remind Him His word, it will not go fruitful. Maybe by His mercies He will help you. But you always need to carry the word of God. What is the word of God saying about sickness? You'll go and tell God, your word says, by the stripes of Jesus, I was healed. And so I forbid this sickness that is coming over my body according to your word. God's throne room sometimes functions like a throne, a courtroom that we see in the world. When you go in the courts, it's the constitution that makes sense. The judge will only listen to how you argue your case according to the Constitution. Similarly with God. And that's how these people were able to entreat God, and God was able to listen to them. One of the things we learn is that as you bring the word of God and the promises of God to engage Him, what happens is that you're able to make Him turn aside and give you attention. The other thing that we notice about Abraham is that he engaged God based on his nature. Your nature is not to kill the righteous and the wicked together. That's what we saw even in the times of Noah. He separated the righteous from the wicked when he was bringing destruction. And so you are entreating God on the basis of his nature. God, you're not known to be unfaithful. Why is it that I'm in this situation? Why is it that I'm suffering? You're not known to abandon your own. You're always there with them. And so when you entreat him according to his nature, God also has the oblige to turn to your attention. These are some of the tips that you can use every time that you engage God in your prayers. Never just go with tears. Never just go with your anguish. Never just go with your thoughts. Make sure that every time you open your mouth, you pick the word of God, the promises of God, the nature of God, and bring it before him by faith. When you bring it before him by faith, because he's the same yesterday, today, and forever, the way he responded to the people who did the same way, he will surely respond to you. You are the Most High. You are the Most High God. You are the Most High. You are the Most High God. Have a great evening tonight.